And so the Halo torch is passed to a new company. A lot of people consider this to be the downfall of the Halo series, but I think it's not. At least not yet. Part 7, November 6th, 2012. The Halo name will be passed over to 343 Industries, and the weight of the world placed on one little bald man's scalp. Welcome to part 7 of our 15th anniversary video series. Today we'll be playing Reclaimer. And of course I'll have my traditional skulls on. Catch, Iron, Thunderstorm, Tough Luck, and of course the silver ones. Continuing with the same theme of, big battle outdoor fun. I feel that Reclaimer is my favorite out of the Halo 4 game. But, unlike most of the others, there's actually a few close contenders. Forerunner was a second choice. I was thinking of doing that one, especially for the intense, classic mall run escape sequence, which is so much fun to do. But, I eventually decided against it. And I also planned on doing either Midnight or Infinity. Midnight being the last level. I thought that would be nice to end the game for once. But
Captain, what's Force Recon's
you know,
assessment of the terrain?
I'm not really a fan of all the nights in Midnight. Wow, that I just walked right into that pun. But it's while it is a fun level, those guys are pretty damn overwhelming. So I decided to just skip through that. And Infinity is fun with the Mantis section. I do love that part. But Reclaimer, it just recaptures that Saturday morning carnage that I seem to enjoy so much.
I usually like a little more intel with my intel.
We'll make it work.
Ooh, here's the TV commercial shot. They put this in all the TV spots and game ads. The Chief turns around and all the Spartans group up behind him. We're ready to run. But anyway, let's get to talking about Halo 4. I hadn't seen so much. I guess you could say outside work or I don't know if sponsored content is the correct term, but I hadn't seen so much exterior work put into a game since Halo 2, all the way back in 2004. They did the live-action web series / house movie Forward Unto Dawn, which I really enjoyed. That was fun to watch. But I made sure not to watch it until after I'd beaten the game. I didn't read up on it to check if there were any spoilers or anything, but I didn't want to end up messing something up before I got to play the game. So I skipped all the web series parts and just held out and bought the DVD, the special edition. And that was a really fun movie to watch. That's the closest thing to a Halo movie we've gotten so far. What else did they do for Halo 4? I remember they had the double XP participation thing. And man, I tell you, that one was pretty big, but at least it was helpful. Getting double XP was very, very worth it. It helped Spike a complete and absolute addiction to Lay's chips and Mountain Dew trying to get more codes. But it was worth it because you were leveling up so quickly. I know if I hadn't gotten any of those specially marked products, as they always say, I definitely wouldn't have reached 130 or 120. He just walked a long way. That's bad. Anyway, if I hadn't eaten all that stuff, I definitely wouldn't have reached maximum level in a good amount of time. So I'm glad that they had that promotion. Of course, they could have handled it a little better. They had the what do you call it? The mini prizes, where you get like a little 20-ounce bottle or whatever, and you get a couple of matches with the promotion on. But then they had the cases with soda and the big $5 family bags that you could get, and you get a whole bunch of matches to go with it. And this is where Morpheus' morality will come into question. I did something pretty bad that year. I found out at one point that Frito-Lay, the geniuses at Frito-Lay, had printed the codes for the big bag on the outside of the bag, so you didn't have to purchase it. And late at night, I would go to Walmart with no other, teenagers would be around, and I'd go up and I'd take pictures of the big $5 bags. I'd take pictures of the code, and I'd redeem them either on my phone or when I got home. It was a pretty low thing to do. I'll admit. I was really greedy and selfish. But once you see those numbers printed on the outside, I just couldn't help myself. It's not an excuse, but it was a really bad idea on Frito-Lay's part to print the numbers on the outside. But anyway, life goes on. Water under the bridge. This is something that happened, 5 years ago? Yeah, Halo 4 is about 5 years old. Pretty close to it. So anyway, they changed a lot in the Halo 4 benchmark. They added the special abilities. They took out Armor Lock, which is both a blessing and a curse. They replaced it with that funky little hard light shield, which is also a blessing and a curse. They made Sprint a permanent thing, which I enjoy. I know a lot of people don't like Sprint for whatever reason. I guess because I'm such a big Sonic fan. I just want to go fast. Just don't like sloughing through the dirt, barely moving at all. As you can see, I'm fidgeting back and forth in this mammoth because I just want to run.
Barricading the far side of this canyon. I'm seeing
But
3 power sources. Shut them down so the
one
man
of the
can through.
things, let's see, I can think about off the top of my head, the specializations and little modifications you can make to your armor. Those were certainly interesting times. People would put Wheelman on, and they'd be a lot tougher in vehicles and such. It was very rare to find a game type where you could use those specializations, but I felt that for the most part, they were well balanced, in my opinion. And it felt great that you could use them in single player events too, like in Spartan Ops. Having your own loadouts with different defensive and offensive perks, it helps individualize players and make them, unique. My favorite loadout that I love to use, I've forgotten the name of it. You can name it, but I've forgotten mine. But the perks I had were mobility for unlimited sprint and dexterity for super fast reloads. And whenever I played with that loadout, I always did really well, especially with crowd control, when enemies would, chase after me with an assault rifle or a sword. I would drill out one guy with a battle rifle and reload almost instantly to be ready for the next guy running at me with a different weapon. And I think that's what made me so good, in my opinion, at Halo 4. The game, for the most part, allowed me to play my own way. And I appreciated that. It was definitely fun to use those specifications. Ordnance was a really neat idea. I mean, I enjoyed having that as an option in Infinity Slayer. You get enough kills, you do well enough, and the game will drop you a reward, a heavy reward, like a rocket launcher or a railgun or some kind of upgrade, like speed boost or damage boost. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten into a gun battle with somebody, and I've had ordnance ready, and I could tell they were about to win or something. I'd hide behind a rock, press for an overshield, they'd drop and I'd get it, and I'd get the upper hand to end up killing the guy. And the fact that you could add those options in custom games made it even more fun, which allowed me to make a lot more custom game types than I normally did in Halo 3 or Halo Reach. While I didn't get any better at Ford, I made more inventive and more fun game types. The most popular of which around the Bungie.org community is considered Kinetic Oddball. And that's a little game type I made. Actually, I made it a while ago, but it didn't have the options. I didn't have the options back then that I could to make in Halo 4. But a lot of people seem to like it. So I made two versions, a hot potato and a normal one. And they all have different ordnance loadouts and all that junk. It's definitely fun. People like it. This was close. I almost got stuck twice. So I planted the grenade. Let me tell you, the recording process for this was tough. I've had the craziest and weirdest things happen to me while trying to record for this particular game. I'll talk about it more in my forum post, but It was brutal. It wasn't all bad, of course. There were some good moments I had trying to get everything together. But it took a long, long amount of time and a near infinite amount of patience. Especially with stuff like this. Weapon switching is back. You can give weapons to your teammates. You know, I've always loved that. Adding in new vehicles and weapons. I think it was Halo 4 might have had the biggest weapon collection out of all three, not all three, out of all 7 games until Halo 5, obviously. But
Target acquired.
Halo 4 just had so many options, so many choices, and if I remember correctly, Halo 4 was the first time that a player could choose weapons of an arsenal from 3 separate races of,
Mammoth won't last long out in the open like that. We'll have to find a way to keep the
I don't know,
Covenant off.
of organisms. I don't know what you want to call it. 3 separate beings, weapon types, and it's amazing. The human side, of course, got major upgrades. For the first time ever, the BR, classic battle rifle, and the designated marksman rifle from Reach, they're both in the same game, so people can use both at once. It's a great way to mollify the complainers who always, whine about not having BRs, and
Hold them off.
also keep the DMR people happy, the ones who took some time to learn how to use that weapon. It's great for SWAT too, because the DMR is perfect for like long range, but the BR is great for power and I guess you could say flexibility. Like I said, in Reach, the DMR is one shot, so you have to be a little bit more careful. But because of the fact that it zooms in so much more and you can see better with it, it's a good way to balance the 2 guns out. The sticky detonator, that weapon is ridiculous amounts of fun. That it rarely shows up, of course, except for like Fiesta and Big Team. But it's hilarious, just popping a little sticky somewhere, and then 30-45 seconds later you see the little red dot on your sensor and you let it go and you get a double kill or a triple kill. The explosion just rocked anybody who was close by. It's super hilarious. I remember one time on Team Action Sack, I forgot the name of it, but it was basically like a Ricochet game with only sticky detonators. I managed to get a Killtastrophe off of that thing without even trying. Definitely the highest I've ever gotten in matchmaking. So that gun was fantastic. The binary rifle, great gun in my opinion. You just shoot at somebody and make that really hard pounding noise, and you can see a player just completely get digitized. The bolt shot, so overpowered. So insanely overpowered. I always joked online that that if 343 Guilty Spark ever got a hold of a bolt shot, he wouldn't even need to go visit the Halos anymore, because he could destroy the universe with that thing. let's see, what did the Covenant have? You know, the beam rifle, fuel rod cannon, energy sword. They took out the plasma rifle and the plasma repeater, and they replaced it with a storm rifle, which I guess you could say would be the replacement for it. It was, I don't know, it felt pretty weird to me. The Covenant didn't get much new weapons,
That did it. Time to make
but you know, the vehicles they got were pretty neat. This the Liches from Shutdown, actually from here too. These little mini carriers are pretty cool to mess around with in Campaign and in Spartan Ops. But the new features they added were definitely fun to use. One thing I forgot to mention when I was talking about loadouts earlier, loadouts were good for multiplayer, but they posed the problem of balance. You know, because of the fact that they every player had a loadout to use. 343 for some reason, they didn't put ammo anywhere on any map. So, if you weren't using a popular weapon like a battle rifle or a DMR, you'd run out of ammo very quickly. For instance, if you would like to use a light rifle instead, which is also a really cool gun, a multi-use gun, you go around killing people or shooting at vehicles or whatever, and you run out of ammo. But nobody else uses light rifles, so only way you can get ammo is to either die or grab a different weapon from somebody else. So, as liberating as it is to allow you to play your own way, it's also kind of restrictive because of the fact that you have to rely on other players
How?
either
How
dying
is
or
this
killing you
okay?
to
How is
continue
swinging hammers
fighting.
because I can't hold it together. Okay.
And that was one oversight that
Chief,
that
do you even understand what rampancy is?
ended up being pretty problematic.
We don't just shut down. Our cognitive processes begin dividing exponentially according to our total knowledge base. We literally think ourselves to death.
But
You know,
anyway, let's talk more about the campaign. You know, Cortana's rampancy and everything. As soon as 343 Industries announced that they were
go, Commander.
taking reins of the Halo campaign, I swore up and down. I just
The command post will
knew,
park
I
the
bet it
cannons
on
through that
everything
trench.
that Cortana was gonna die
I can
in
move fast.
Halo 5, and that
We'll see you back on
in
Infinity, Commander.
number 6, the big epic conclusion, that Master Chief would have nothing left, and he would either sacrifice himself or go in,
Heads up.
house cocked, guns blazing, to try and end the war once and for all, the Human Covenant War. But 343 definitely surprised me. They killed her off in Halo 4. And then, well, we'll get to that later on. As the story, as it goes to the point of story, though, it was fun to see where Chief and Cortana finally ended up. You know, they had that legendary ending where they showed up on that big planet made out of metal, and it was nice to see where that led to Requiem and a new type of enemy, the Prometheans. Which are definitely formidable, yet cool in their own way. You know, I love picking up weapons like, you know, a light rifle or a suppressor or an incineration cannon and watching the whole thing build up around me. I thought that was a really cool feature that they added. But, the enemies themselves, knights and watchers and crawlers, they are interesting in their own unique way. You know, we've been shooting at grunts for over a decade. And these crawlers, which are fearless, they're agile, and they're so numerous, they help put a spin on infantry combat. I mean, even on easy difficulty, I can find myself being swarmed by those things and finding it harder and harder to hold my position, you know, stay in control of the situation. The knights themselves, they're big, they're scary. Most of them have a scatter shot, which, if you're close enough, would kill you instantly. And watchers, even though they're annoying, they do a surprisingly well job of serving their purpose. You know, they block attacks from the knight, they catch grenades and throw them back at you. And if the knight dies, they'll just swoop right in and revive him. You know, we haven't had enemies come back to life since the flood. So it was always a thing to watch out for. Leading up to the boss of the Prometheans, the Didact himself, I gotta tell you, he's gotta be my favorite antagonist ever. If not in the Halos, if not in all of fiction, at least in my opinion, then definitely in the Halo series. You've gotta be super pissed off if you wake up after 100,000 years and the first thing you see are the humans that you so terribly despise. And he's got some of the most memorable lines I've ever had the pleasure of listening to. The cutscene where he's first introduced in Forerunner, that's my favorite cutscene out of the Halo game, out of Halo 4. And his intelligence, his tenacity is so thrilling. I know it sounds completely stupid, but if the Didact were real and not hell-bent on destroying all of humanity, I'd like to play a game of chess with him. He certainly got the chops for knowing how to use his forces.
Cortana to infinity. We're entering
And of course,
structure.
his wife, the voice of reason, the librarian, you know, she always tried so hard to, make him understand that the humans were not the enemy. And without running out of options, she had to detain him by force, hoping that hoping that it would calm him down, but unfortunately, it only made it worse. Of course, my heart goes out to Librarian's voice actor, Lori Traitel, who unfortunately passed away about a month and a half ago from lung cancer. Unfortunately, well, of course, death happens to everybody, and it's always a sad event. Even though her time in the Halo universe was brief, I immediately considered her part of our Halo family. She may have only been in this one game and in a couple of
We've reached the coordinates.
terminals
Like
and other media, but she's one of us. She's part of our big ass Halo ensemble, and I know I miss her dearly, and I'm pretty sure the rest of the Halo community misses her as well. It's it's a shame that it's so regrettable having to fight against cancer in your lifetime. My mother is a breast cancer survivor, and she actually still had her cancer when she was pregnant with me. And she always told me, and she had x-rays, of course, to confirm it. But when I was little, when I was growing in her womb, I was literally swimming in tumors. And it was a miracle that we both made it out of that situation alive. For my mother and myself. So, out of respect for Miss Traitel and the admiration of this cutscene, I'm going to remain silent and bring the volume back to the original level.
Who are you?
I am what remains of the Forerunner, once known as the Librarian. My memories were retained to assist humanity on their path to the mantle. Though sadly, that plan is now at risk. The Didact is leaving Requiem. Soon. You must not allow it.
Leaving.
He seeks this. The Composer. A device which will allow him to finally contain the greatest enemy ever faced by the Forerunners. You. Mankind spread into the stars with an unexpected, desperate violence. Entire systems fell before the Didact's warrior servants rose to halt the aggression. When the Didact finally exhausted the humans after a millennia, his sentence was severe. We had no way of knowing that the Forerunners were not your only enemy. Humanity hadn't been expanding. They were running. Weakened from our conflict, we were no match for the parasite which pursued you. The Forerunners made plans for a final great journey, but the Didact refused to yield our mantle of responsibility. He would save all life in the galaxy, at a cost. In the Forerunner's quest for transcendence, the composer had been intended to bridge the organic and digital realms. It would have made us immortal. But its results soured. The stored personalities fragmented, and our attempts to return them to biological states created only abominations. Such moral concerns faded from the Didact's attention. The Flood only assimilated living tissue. The composer would provide the Didact his solution and his revenge.
The Prometheans. They're human.
They were only the beginning. He would have encrypted your entire race if we had not removed the composer from his care and imprisoned him here. Reclaimer. When I indexed mankind for repopulation, I hid seeds from the Didact. Seeds which would lead to an eventuality. Your physical evolution. Your combat skin. Even your ancilla Cortana. You are the culmination of 1,000 lifetimes of planning.
Planning for what?
He has found us.
Even in death, her meddling continues.
Reclaimer. The gene song I placed within you contains many gifts, including an immunity to the composer. But it must be unlocked.
How?
Relinquish your contact essence.
Your evolutionary journey must be accelerated.
Can I defeat the Didact without it?
No.
Then do it.
Prepare.
From the bottom of my heart, thank you, Miss Tritell, for lending your talent and voice to such a great community and such a wonderful story. My favorite librarian moment was definitely in Terminal 7, where everything came to a head and
Back at the chamber.
the librarian sealed her husband into the cryptum. The monologue that Laurie had displayed through that video was so
Chief,
beautiful and
your bio readings are all over the map.
emotionally raw.
I know what the Didact's after.
I know that part.
And
The librarian
mixed
filled
with
me
the
in when she
music
snatched me
of
from the system. But what
Neil,
I don't know is what she
I
did
don't
to
know how
you.
to pronounce his name, David, I'm not sure, but it was such an incredible scene, and it really brought the terminals together. But yes, back to my mother and everything. She had cancer and everything when she was pregnant with me, and the process, of course, was unimaginably difficult for her. But she pulled through, and I'm so grateful that she had survived. That she was that she had made it through and helped deliver me. Because obviously, if not, then none of this would be happening. Well, anyway, let me try and get out of this depression I've put myself in. Let's talk about the music for a little bit. We don't have much time left, but let me reflect briefly on the music of Halo 4. There's obviously no replacing the impeccable and nearly godlike genius of Martin O'Donnell, or the incredible, if not reclusive, additional efforts of Michael Salvatore. But with all that being said, I have to admit, the music of Massive Attack and Kazuma Jinochi, they've done stuff that I guarantee you that even Marty might not have considered. The switch from orchestra to digital really helped make a new spin on the Halo series, of course. Since everything was new about it, new developer, new engine, I believe, new story, it felt only right to make to bring in a new composer. And the soundtrack for Halo 4, I felt was so. I shouldn't say refreshing, because that makes it sound like an insult to Marty's work. But it's a new twist. It's something that we as a Halo fan community aren't used to. But I think the music was done extremely well. The tracks like Arrival, Nemesis. Oh man, I'll definitely sing that in the car. Faithless, Ascendancy, Haven, Wreckage, Belly of the Beast. They're just amazing pieces to listen to. Even if you've never played Halo 4, it's great to listen to by itself. It brings about an epic tale. It makes it seem even bigger with all the sounds and moods that it can bring. And I think it was a great job. It did a fantastic job. When the Halo soundtrack first came out, I went out and bought that special limited edition, simply because I wanted to know, first off, how the music came about and how they invited Massive Attack onto into our helm. But I also heard about the remix album and that amazing looking vinyl of Cortana and the Master Chief. I don't even have a vinyl record player, but I bought those specifically for its incredible value. It's been an amazing journey, and although the Master Chief collection was a humongous flop and an absolute tragedy, Halo 4 proved to me, at least, that 343 was capable of making a good game. They went off to a great start.
That kind of punishment. Not again.
Definitely.
This isn't about us or this ship anymore.
Sir, we've seen
Okay,
what
so
the
we're
Dynamax
now at
is
the end of
capable
Halo
of.
4,
If we let him leave this world, humanity
and
will
this
be at risk.
Look,
this idiot right here,
I understand what you think you saw.
what a
With all
total
due
moron.
respect, sir, I know
He's
what I saw.
just stuck so hard on
You, soldier. I'm not
focusing
going
on
to
his
jeopardize
own
my ship
rule.
because
Well, not
of
his own
hallucinations of
rules,
an
but
aging
focusing on
Spartan and his
the
malfunctioning
UNSC's objective. He's so stubborn and hard-headed.
What if he's right?
He does not listen to reason at all.
Nav, as soon as we know we're airtight, I want a course laid into Karanay Station. Com, prepare a warning beacon.
And he's kind of an idiot, even though the chief and Cortana warned him multiple times to stay away from Requiem. He says, "No, I gotta go in faster. I gotta go in faster." And then guess what? You're all stuck on the Didax planet.
I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to do that.
Commander Lasky.
I'm glad Lasky was there to,
Article 55 of UNSC Regulation
knock some sense
12-105
into Del Rio.
I'm ordering you to remove that AI data chip
just
and retire
consider,
from
hey,
dispensation.
I don't want to.
Never heard of a second opinion?
Remove the chip now,
And
Commander.
I'm, of course, extremely glad he stayed on the Infinity to help run the ship.
Me that chip.
The Didact has to be stopped.
Especially after Del Rio got his dumb ass kicked out.
I will.
I am ordering you to surrender that AI!
I'm really surprised that Master Chief didn't just backhand him all the way through the front of that window and send him back to Earth.
Trouble is coming. Cortana and I
Put his ass in the ground where he belonged. But it does show the Master Chief is an even bigger man for still showing respect after disagreeing. Anyway, I would discuss a teaser for the next game, but that would be beneath me. Get it? Oh god, I'm terrible.